Welcome to NDTV Profit, and a very happy Diwali to all our viewers watching this very special show. We are now looking at how the Diwali festival has been and what has been the customer demand, especially in the automotive sector. And to talk more about this, as well as the transition that the company has done in the last 12 to 18 months, we're now joined by Mr. Aryaman Thakker, the Executive Director of Landmark Cars. Hello, sir, and thank you so much for joining us at NDTV Profit. And I wish you a very happy Diwali to you as well as everyone at Landmark Group.
Yeah, thank you. I think thanks a lot for having me on your show, and wish you and your viewers a very happy Diwali as well.
Well, we want to start with, just talking about how the festival demand has been in this particular year. It's been a very interesting year for the passenger vehicle industry starting from April. We have seen that certain brands have done very well, and with you operating more than 6 to 8 brands in the country and offering that dealership across the whole country, across more than 12 to 13 states now, I wanted to start with, what's been the customer response in this particular festive season? Now, for automakers, we do see that starting October, we see a lot of offers being rolled out for the customers as well. I want to understand how has that transition period been across brands for you? How was Navaratri and Dasera as a whole? Because we see that customers plan their purchases across auspicious periods. So just talk us through that part to start with.
You are right. I think this period, the festive period that we are seeing right now, I think it is quite good broadly. I think we are seeing a good purchasing from the customers across the auto segments. And from the Vahan numbers, which we have been tracking very closely, I think the numbers are seeing very positive, and we are prima facie looking at a 5-6% growth over last year's festive period. So I think we should be anywhere close to 400,000 cars for this month is what the trend right now is looking like. For Landmark, we now operate 10 brands across 11 states in the country. And because our focus is mainly on the premium and luxury car market. And as you know, in the last few years, the Indian consumer has now moved more towards the premium side of the auto buying as well. And that is what we continue to see in this festive period, where the customers who are even coming are preferring to buy the higher end or the fully loaded variants of most of the models which are there. The festive season, we are also seeing, because there is an increased availability that has been there by many of the manufacturers. Many manufacturers have also rolled out some customer offers to make it attractive. And at the same time, there is also, as you said, a pent-up demand because the planned purchases around this auspicious period are there. So I think all put together, I think we are in for a good Diwali period this year.
Now, essentially, because we have seen that the first 6 months of this festive period, for cars especially, we have seen brands like Mahindra doing very well, but the others have been struggling to show growth compared to last year. So they have been showing 1 to 2% growth, while launches have also been on the premium side, which is somewhere you operate in. For the brands, as you rightly said, you operate 10 brands. For the brands that you work with, how has been the first half of the fiscal year specifically, and what's the current inventory picture, so as to say, for you? Because we have seen inventory has been built up, and dealer associations have been complaining about that the number is currently quite high leading up to the festive season. How is that for the industry according to you, and for Landmark specifically as well?
Yes, I think there has been a lot of coverage around the high inventory that the industry has been sitting at. I think the last FADA report of last month stated that the days were anywhere between 70 to 75 days inventory, which the industry was sitting at. Coming to Landmark, and this is what we had given in our latest filing as well, we have been able to manage our inventory better. We are anywhere between 42 to 45 days till last quarter. So we have been able to manage our inventory cycles a little better, and to a large extent stay away from the stocking which has most of the industry has been going through. Having said that, I think after the festive period that we are seeing, I do think that the overall stock levels should come down by a reasonably good amount across the automobile sector.
Now, you did mention about the 10 brands that you operate, and so you are present across brands like Mercedes, and now you've added something like M&M in the foray as well. Kia is coming up as well for you, and MG is another brand that you've added
Yes.
over the last 12 to 18 months. For them specifically, how has been the customer footfall, so as to say? Do you see an increased number of people that are coming in for inquiry for these brands? Because it's also kind of away from the strategy of just being a luxury dealer or retailer in the country. You've moved to a premium to luxury retailer now. How do you see that change that has happened, firstly, over the last, for the company itself? It's a big change because you've added, I wouldn't call it mass brands, but premium brands that operate in the SUV segment. So how have you managed to have that change specifically? And what has been the customer response coming in specifically for these premium brands, so as to say?
You are right. I think the last 2 years for us have been heavy on the expansion side. I think in the last financial year, we added close to 18 to 20 outlets. In this year, we will add close to 25 outlets, 23 of which are already operational by the end of Q2, mainly for the 3 brands that you mentioned, plus some for our existing brands as well. So the premiumization trend has been going on, especially since COVID, it has accelerated. I think, and premium is at Landmark what we define as generally cars having a average selling price of 11 or 12 lakh rupees before GST. Now, all of these brands that you said on a portfolio basis are catering to that segment, and this is the segment that the customer is also wanting. If you now see that majority of the Indian market has moved above the 7.5 lakh rupee price point, with more than 40% of the market being upwards of the 10 lakh rupee price point. And within that, the customers are also choosing the higher end or the top end variants, which are fully loaded. Now, to give you an example, we are seeing that the age of the customer is actually coming down. Now, for Mercedes-Benz, if I was to give you an example, the average age of an S-Class buyer has come down from his mid to late 40s to the late 30s. Now, that shows the aspiration and the willingness of the younger generation to actually show their success and their wealth. Also, continuing with Mercedes-Benz, we are seeing that from all the cars that they sell, 25% of those cars are what they call as the top-end vehicles, which are made up of the Maybachs, the EQS, the electric sedans, the AMG performance vehicles, the S-Class. So 25% of their overall sales comprises of these top-end cars.
Now, I just want to, get into this premium segment a little more because, as I mentioned, because, it's a new strategy that you employed a couple of years ago now. We did see in, the Q4 results of the company of FY24 where we saw that, the business was impacted because of limited launches from the existing brands that you operated. And I think it was a pivot, so as to say, for you to get into the premium category, and you've chosen the brands essentially as well, which are, because MG as well as M&M, you mentioned that the Vahan data is very strong for these brands. Was it a tough transition for Landmark to get into these brands? Because now you're addressing an audience which will potentially be buying Mercedes much later in the future, but you're addressing a new crowd which you wouldn't have essentially addressed with the existing brands as well. So talk us through that specifically of how that has come in, and how are you addressing this new crowd? Because you mentioned that the average age of the buyer is also reduced. What is different that Landmark is doing to address this crowd?
So you are right. I think last year we realized that though we had a good bouquet of brands, we realized that maybe we needed to have a wider diversification even further. So we added 3 high growth brands with Mahindra and Mahindra MG as well as Kia. Now which were in the segment we wanted to be, and which basis the data were going to be long-term growth stories in India. So for us, the transition, I would say, was quite natural, because even apart from Mercedes, which is the luxury brand, we were catering to the premium segment with our other existing brands like a Volkswagen or a BYD, or to an extent I would say Honda or a Jeep. So we had experience in working with the premium brands as well. And these three brands, I would say, were a natural fit. So MG we started last year, Kia and Mahindra we have started relatively recently, and I think we have been able to hit the ground running for the most part. And I think as these brands scale up and mature over the next few quarters, I think we'll start seeing the benefit of these brands to our performance.
So what's the longer term outlook if I have to look at the next 2 to 3 years specifically? Do you see a higher proportion of sales coming from these brands, because the average selling price you said is also lower at 11 lakhs compared to something like Mercedes, which you sell at roughly around 21 lakhs. So do you see that over the next 2 3 years these will mushroom into higher sales for you? And if I can just squeeze in an EBITDA question as well, because we see that new car sales EBITDA is lower. So do you see what does that do for your revenues as well as EBITDA with addition of these brands?
So a small correction. I think 11 lakhs is not the average selling price. 11, 12 lakhs is how we at Landmark are defining the premium segment. So most of these brands are above that threshold with the products that they kind of cater to. Now, I think for a Landmark, I think we will be in a similar zone when it comes to our average selling price that we have. I think there is a chance that we may also increase it as we have been over the last few quarters. So I don't see any impact in terms of the average selling price of our portfolio fluctuating as such. And we will, because we are focused on this segment, and the brands that we have now partnered with are going to be long-term growth drivers. And a few of them have been the fastest growing brands over the last 1 or 2 years and will continue to be so. So I see that, yes, with newer launches from those brands and some of our existing brands, the portfolio contribution may change a little bit, but I think the average selling price will continue to be in the zone that it is at right now.
Now, one question, we did speak about inventory being around 40 to 45 days for you versus what FADA reports are upwards of 70 days for whole of India. I want to ask a question which all consumers love, which is discounts. Now, because of higher inventory, there has been a lot of discounting currently in the market. How much is that for you specifically? And I know you operate roughly 10 brands now, so it might be difficult to give an average, but if any kind of indication that you can give for consumers to come and buy a car, what could be the discounts that they would be looking at?
So it again depends a lot on the make and the model. I think there are attractive offers in the market from OEMs right now, which were more than what we have seen historically in the last 1-2 years. But again, at the same time, we are also seeing a lot of demand from the new launches, be it an MG Windsor or the BYD E-Max 7 or the new Meridian or the new Carnival or the new E-Class, which are some of, to name a few, where of course being new cars, there are not the car itself is selling on its own merit. But I think the message to the customer will be that if one is looking at to buy a car, I think this is the best time to buy a car. I think the offers from the customer are there. At the same time, availability is increased. So if one wants to buy it, then this is the best and the most auspicious time to go ahead.
So if I am to get into a 12 to 14 lakh range, can I expect the customer to walk in and get roughly about $1 lakh or $1.5 lakh discount across brands? Because I know you operate a lot of brands. So is that something that is a good assumption to make?
I think it would be on an average a little lesser. But again, there are many schemes for if there is a car to trade in or many offers that are there. But could be close to a lakh rupees thereabouts that one can see.
Now, electric vehicle as a segment has picked up, very strongly, especially post the pandemic. We have brands such as Tata Motors, and now Mahindra is going to be coming up with a new electric vehicle starting next year as well.
Yes.
You have Kia; they already have a couple of brands that they operate in the market as well. So, and now BYD, I can't forget about BYD when we talk about electric vehicles. How has that change been for, how have you viewed that change in the country specifically? And now I feel the brands also recognizing to because now most of them are about 20 lakh rupees for electric vehicles. And now I think Tata has come out with Nexon, which is much cheaper, but there's going to be a lot of options in the next 12 months, specifically for electric vehicles. You've been in the forefront of this change and having brands. How do you view the electric vehicle market currently in India? What has been the customers' queries to you specifically, and how do you see this evolve over the next 2 to 3 years?
So the EV market right now is close to a 2.5% penetration across for the entire PV range, the private car penetration, if I was to say. As the mass market players and as more affordable options enter into the market, of course, this market will grow substantially. I think there is a customer interest which is coming in, and therefore at Landmark we wanted to partner with the best into our bouquet of options. So as and when the industry actually grows in that direction, we are adequately covered. So with that, we partnered with BYD, one of the leaders in the world, with MG Motors, with Kia. Mercedes already has a good bouquet of options in terms of electric cars. So coming to the customers, they are curious about electric vehicles. I think they come in with a lot of knowledge beforehand in terms of what the features, the range, the etc. is. There are still apprehensions, a few apprehensions about EVs, especially with what they are reading about electric vehicles in the world.
And the range anxiety as well.
A little bit on the range anxiety, little questions about the long-term usability, I think, with what they are reading globally. But I think India is still at a relatively nascent stage, and I think we have a good amount of headroom to grow before we get to a high penetration level that we see. I think by 2030, at the best case scenario, we'll be at maybe a 20-25% penetration, and I think that will be a healthy EV penetration at that point.
I wanted to do sort of like a rapid fire with you, where I just ask a quick question and you have to give a quick response as well. What's been the most requested brand or car model this festive season across the brands that you operate in?
I think it has been the new Mercedes E-Class.
New Mercedes E-Class, okay. What is the brand and model with the highest discount?
I would. That's a difficult one for me to answer right now, but I think I would say that the new Jeep Meridian has been launched at a great price. So I think that is something one should look for.
What is the brand and the model with the highest as well as the lowest waiting period? So highest waiting period, I'm sure there will be a lot of models which have a lot of waiting period because of the new introduction, but highest as well as the lowest waiting period according to you?
So I would say specific models and the luxury side for Mercedes have a high waiting period going up to a few months. And I think the recently launched MG Windsor and the BYD E7 Max, which are great electric cars, are seeing a waiting period stretching up to a few months.
And finally, which is the Indian city that you are present in, which you are most bullish on going forward?
So I think that won't be a rapid fire answer. I think for us, I would say that we have expanded into now 11 states.
Yeah.
I think a recent foray for us has been into South India with Hyderabad, where we have been looking at that market for some time. And now we have entered there with 3 brands, Mercedes, Kia, as well as Mahindra and Mahindra. So we are seeing that as one of our core markets in the future.
My final question now, what is your favorite car currently? And I can give you two favorite cars. Earlier, what it was, what is your current favorite now with the news, and with the upcoming models, if there's something that you would like.
So that is again a very tough question for me to ask because I was a petrol head when I was growing up. So, but recently I think the new BYD Seal is something which is catching a lot of attention, and it's a very sporty and a fun car to drive, having experienced it. But I would say that most of the brands that we offer, I think, each have a fantastic offering, and every time when that option comes to get a car for personal use, it's a very tough debate and discussion at home. So, but I think from the EV side, I think the BYD Seal is something that is extremely exciting right now, and I'm very fascinated by the new E-Class. I think that's another hit that we have on our hand.
Give us something from the premium space as well.
From the premium space, I think, yes, I think the premium space, I would say that the Mahindra Thar rocks.
Yeah.
I think that is something which I was very blown away with when I saw it and drove it.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic car, and that will continue the Thar legacy.
Okay. Well, Mr. Thakker, thank you so much for joining us today here at NDTV Profit and giving us a whole host of topics and things to think about. We look forward to our next conversation, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot for having me, and happy Diwali to you once again.
Wish you the same. Well, that's all the time we have on this very special conversation with Landmark Cars. Stay tuned to NDTV Profit for more.